your background, as I said, I mean, you focused on public policy and government affairs. How like I've talked to CEOs and founders of biotechs that have come from every angle, from every facet. This might be a first. I don't know that I've had a founder on who, you know, built their wheelhouse in government and government affairs and public policy. How would you say like that has supported the work that you're doing now as a founder and CEO of a biotech? Like, do you find yourself leaning into that? I mean, obviously the network, you build a great network in that position. But what other, I guess, elements of that expertise serve you well in the role that you're in now?
Well, little tongue in cheek, but I'd much rather be doing something easy, like trying to create a new treatment for a really challenging pediatric cancer than dealing with politicians these days. Uh, but no, I think the opportunity to have served every department in a major biotech pharma company. Boehringer Ingelheim at the time was the largest privately held biopharmaceutical company in the world. And our department supported every single department from research development, um, the commercialization side, the HR, legal. And so being involved with those product developments, along with some others at BI, we were the first to really push um, quality measurements way into the clinical research to make sure that eventually, that product would get reimbursed. Um, so, you know, supporting the development of these products and making sure that their launches were successful and that the access to these medicines, life-saving medicines, from big pharma and big biotech really did prepare me and the rest of our team for getting stuff done. That's, the beauty of being in a small company, but small biotech, is that you get things done. And so that's one thing we've been talking about a lot recently, Matt, post IPO, which was about 48 days ago, 50 days ago.
Mhm.
And that is, as we grow, making sure that we keep a very entrepreneurial and collegiate culture. Um, all of us that work at OS Therapies really enjoy the work environment and the culture, but we also realize that it's much more productive than meetings upon meetings upon meetings.
Take that a little bit deeper, like more productive than meetings upon meetings upon meetings. What does that sort of that collegial um, culture entail? Like, how are we spending our time in a more constructive way?
But it's all about getting things done, making sure that the data is prepared, you know, to prepare to get to the FDA.
Mm.
It's about getting supplies to the trials, so that the patients receive the therapies. It's about making sure that investor calls and bankers are well aware of what the company is doing, about transparency of the company. It's all about execution, and making sure that we're executing on our strategy. And that's why we've been able to do so much with such limited funds and such in such an efficient way.
Yeah. What would you be doing if? What do you think you'd be doing right now if not for Olivia? Would you still be consulting?
There's a Luke Bryan, Luke Combs song. What would you be doing now if you weren't doing this?
I haven't heard that one. No, I'll have
It's
to.
he basically says I'd still be singing my music in a bar, which is what I'm doing now, right? But I would hope that I would have found something as inspirational as this to do. Um, we started with what's, small, rare cancer. And look, Matt, if I were to be able to get rid of this nasty chemo, for a small rare disease like osteosarcoma and the community that I'm so close with, that would be absolutely a life check, right?
Yeah.
Put me in the ground tomorrow. Good. But just think if we can significantly affect other solid tumors, and I congratulate the industry and the folks that have worked on the blood tumors. We in the solid tumor world have a lot further way to go. And
Mm-hmm.
so that inspires me, that inspires my entire team, all of the vendors that we work with. Either they have the passion and the focus and the commitment to what we're doing, or they're not involved.
Yeah. There's two, you can start with either of these tracks you'd like. It's sort of a two-part story we're telling here between the osteo, the vaccine candidate and the ADC candidate. And they're considered, but I imagine there's a challenge, an inherent challenge in managing the go forward plans for both of those because they're very different go forward plans of very different markets. Look at the ADC space right now. You talked about your differentiating technology around the linker, but it's a very crowded space. I mean, there's a lot of activity in that ADC market right now. So, well, yeah, maybe since I'm setting it up that way, we'll dwell on that one for a minute. What is your like? You bring this ADC technology in. It's unique. It's differentiated. It's novel. What's give us the high level go forward plan with that candidate? As I said, in the context of a pretty busy ADC biotech space.
Well, they're both platform technologies are very dependent on each other. Even though they are very different, they dovetail nicely,
Mm.
right? Because the HER2 is preventing metastasis, which in the long run is going to have the most significant effect on increasing survival. And then the ADC is debulking large solid tumors. And so there's the thought that maybe could use the ADCs at some point for osteosarcoma, even our original mission of the company.
Mm-hmm.
But as I often describe it, Matt, it's like having two children and you love them both, but you love them differently.
Yeah.
I always say the first one, the HER2, is going to be the workhorse. It's further along in the pipeline. We've finished the phase 2B trial. We believe that to be a registration trial. We get a priority review voucher from that. We use that to pivot to phase 3 in breast and lung cancer, and other solid tumors, which would be a huge expansion in the company. Mm-hmm. All the while, we're developing the ADC that's maybe further back. And as soon as we get through 2-week in GLP tox, and if we prove that our linkers and the coding really does work the way it has in our in vivo trials, then that becomes an out licensing opportunity while not even jeopardizing our therapeutic developments in the ADC space. So, and all along that, there's the potential of us being bought out either for one platform or the other or both. And so, we're a go forward, commercialization. We're looking to partner in certain places. We certainly want to out license the canine osteosarcoma to a large animal health company. Osteosarcoma is the single largest disease killer of dogs, second only to automobiles. So big market opportunity for an animal health company. And again, don't want to distract ourselves and the company from our mission around humans and around osteosarcoma and then other solid tumors. So yeah, the ADC space is crowded, but there are still a lot of problems, and that market is going to be huge. As I said a couple years ago, and people thought I was crazy, ADCs are now what monoclonal antibodies were 10 years ago. Anyone not in the industry, you just look at a TV ad and it's whatever the generic it is up the brand name is, the generic ad ends with MAB. So, monoclonal antibodies are all over the place. I think that's where ADCs will be in the next 6, 8, 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As you think about the optionality that you have moving forward, I mean, I'm not going to ask you to share your ideal, situation, but any of them short of taking the ball all the way to the finish line yourself involves some degree of letting go of something that, I mean, change your life, right? Change the trajectory of your life. How do you feel about that? Like, what is what level of involvement will Paul Romness retain regardless of the outcome here?
I have said from the beginning, this disease is bigger than any one person. And so the other thing I've said is it will take all of us getting involved, and it means our investors, our vendors, patients, their parents, the clinicians. It will take all of us doing everything we can to be successful. So, look, there have been 1,000 places where this could have derailed before, the clinical trial, before the in licensing, during all that process, the IPO. There are 1,000 places, to be honest, going forward where things could go wrong, but we've tackled every single one of those. We've done everything we said we would do. Obviously, it took more money and more time than you ever think, but we have executed and delivered on everything we said we would, and we're going to do the same moving forward. But that's whether that includes me or anyone else. I've always said everyone is replaceable. And if there's a time where someone can carry this mission further than me, the mission is bigger than any one person.
Yeah. Immediate horizon. What's on the immediate horizon for each of these candidates? Like, what should we be looking out for? I mean, you talked a bit about the clinical trial, and wrapping that up. Like, what's the next step there?
Yeah, so the phase 2B clinical trial finished, technically finishes on October 1st, but the last kid got his last dose 4 weeks ago yesterday. We should have the data and the case matched control ready by the week after Thanksgiving. And we're an open label company sponsored trial, so we will most likely share that data. Obviously, taking that data with the case matched control to the FDA. We're hoping for breakthrough designation. We're hoping for approval by the end of second quarter next year. That's on the human osteosarcoma. The canine osteosarcoma has been conditionally approved by the USDA. We do need to do a quick shedding trial, two-week trial that measures if there's any residual biologic infection coming out of the dogs. You certainly don't want to have one dog urinating listeria or secreting listeria and another dog getting it. So in the previous trials with the canines, it has been checked. Each dog's been checked to make sure they don't have listeria, but it was never measured. So we have to do that and submit that to USDA for full approval. And then we look to out-license that and find a partner who can commercialize that globally. We also will then quickly pivot next year into a phase 3 trial with standard of care, along with our OST HER2 in either breast cancer and or a bundle trial for that. And then as soon as we get through GLP tox for the ADCs, we'll look to partner on developing 3 to 5 ADCs to get INDs for and get into the clinic for that as well.
Yeah, very exciting. Lots on your plate. You wouldn't have it any other way, though, would you? You mentioned from the outset when you told Olivia's story that she's doing well and she's going to med school. Any idea what she's gonna focus on?
I wouldn't be surprised if she goes into pediatric oncology. She's working now at a pediatric physician's office here in the area, and they just love her. So
yeah,
I think, when you dodge a bullet like osteosarcoma, again, as I mentioned earlier, most kids and their families, parents run from the disease. But some of the kids that have survived osteosarcoma have channeled that back into the disease in pediatric oncology. There was I think, a physician's assistant from St. Jude's that actually went up in one of the space flights. And, there's a young lady that had a really bad genetic mutation of her osteosarcoma. It's called MYC amplification, MYC.
Hmm.
And it turns out she had a biologic infection, kind of like what we're doing for our patients. And she survived. Otherwise, MYC amplification is a very, very poor diagnosis. She's now a pediatric oncology nurse. And
Hmm.
so I could see Olivia doing that. It'd be full circle, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels kind of funny to talk about her without her here. I think the next time we have you on, Paul, we'll have to bring Olivia on as well.
Oh, it'd be great. She would definitely tell it like it is, Matt.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Paul. This has been very insightful. It's super inspiring work that you guys are doing. Thanks for sharing the story with us. And with everything coming down the pipe here in the next 12, 18 months, I'd love to have you back on for an update. Maybe sometime next year when there's data to talk about and next steps, and learn a little bit more about how you navigated that.
That would be great, Matt. Thank you very much for your thoughtful approach.